Sup guys, so part 2 of our tier list, let's get right to it. You know, let's give a slightly better production value this time in this tier list. I'm just going to be playing random tournament sets, we're talking about each character. And yeah, let's get right to it. And of course this is in order, characters on the right being the worst in the tier and the left being the best. And order does matter, but it's not like the biggest deal at this point in the tier list. So let's get right into it. If you have better ideas for where I can maybe place like the tier in the next video, let me know. But anyway, so starting off, Zelda. Zelda is pretty bad as a character. She's not awful. She's not like the bottom 2 tiers, but this is a character who obviously has all of her best stuff placed into one move, the Phantom, and most characters have some counterplay to it. It's not like, the thing with Phantom is it's not even like this super overwhelming move that just wins the neutral and breaks the game like some other characters might have with single overwhelming moves. So even in terms of that, when you have like a mediocre cannon, a really good move that gives you lots of room to outplay your opponent, and I want to say you have to outplay your opponent to use that move, consistently beat them. It's like other characters just do it better. Factor, you know, just everything else better, you know, mobility, rest of her kit, lightweight. And just kind of this character that like is very satisfying when they get hits in, and sometimes the character feels very good when things are going well. But there's good players that know how to rush down their Phantom, use projectiles, stop Phantom setups, abuse Zelda's out-of options, being matchup dependent. If you get hit with like Rising Fairies and Barazar Shield with sweet spots, is pretty good. Otherwise, you're gonna suffer. And for the most part, good characters just make her suffer in one way or another. Just, it's hard for Zelda. Next up, Meta Knight. This is a character who keeps dropping on my tier lists. Like, when Ultimate came out, you know, I was like, this character seems pretty good. Even beyond the whole, like, zero death memes didn't actually come to fruition. I was like, alright, you got a fast character who's small, good combo game. Even if the sword's kind of small, it's still good to have. And then, I just realized I gotta do this. I get better at doing this whole thing. And then it's like, as the game goes on, it's like, alright, you're not seeing results with him. None of the theory craft's coming into fruition. He's becoming a pretty linear character. Like, you kind of just look at, like, finding grounded approaches with dash attacks, grabs. You know, multi-jumps are nice, but you're too slow to use them. Plus, hitboxes aren't the best on his stuff. His frame data is, like, it's good, but it's not, like, super crazy good like other characters with low range. And while he has some really insane, like, training mode combos, a lot of them require pretty precise, like, percents to work, setups, positioning, and, like, basically a lot of his really good combo game is a little bit too situational and, like, precise to make work consistently. Coming out with the neutral, it's pretty linear, meaning he gets trouble with just winning it, because generally if you're linear, that's not that great. And a batch of moves, I feel like they're more suited for comboing, or, like, catch people off guard with, like, down B, for example, or side B, than actually being used to, like, win that neutral. And then you also consider he's a light character who gets comboed pretty hard because of his gravity and his fall speed, and you just end up with a character that has really not met my expectations for him in this game at all. And afterwards you have D. It's funny, all the Kirby characters next to each other. Not intentional, by the way. Just kind of happened that being slow characters with major weaknesses can all get grouped together. But yeah, so D. He is, I mean, big character, slow, combo food. Actually, he's weird. He overall has a pretty lacking kit in terms of moves. Like, his only particularly good move is Gordo, so it's kind of like Zelda, where it's like one move that carries him. Now, Gordo is, I would say, a bit less counterplay to Gordo. Actually, I feel like Gordo is a simpler move than Zelda's Phantom, in that, like, the counterplay is more simple. And your character either does have counterplay or doesn't generally. And as a result, there's less room to outplay your opponent. But the characters who can't deal with Gordo too well struggle a bit more than dealing with something like Zelda Phantom. But with that said, because he's a big, slow body, he has trouble chasing people, he gets rushed down, he has trouble with like good projectile camping. His hitboxes, you know he has a hammer, his hitboxes aren't that great. So like most disjoints can just outrange him, although his back here is pretty big, I give it that. Actually, yeah, he has some decent sized moves, but yeah, nothing crazy. And his only real saving graces are when you're at the ledge versus him, you just might lose that stock. Like, there is, I always say, you know, when you're at the ledge, it's all about the skill of your opponent ledge trapping for the most part. And with Dedede, it's not even about that. He just has like a lot of really ridiculously good setups. Obviously, he has mind games and outplays and stuff, but his ledge trapping is so absurd that it carries him really hard. Combined with the fact that he's a really heavy character, it's very hard to kill him. In fact, he's like one of the hardest characters in the game to kill. His weight, his multi-jumps. He's a bit floaty, especially for heavyweight, so he's actually a bit harder to combo than other characters. And he ends up being, in my opinion, the hardest character in this game to kill overall. So that's a really nice benefit. Like, combine that with, you know, hitting hard. As being one of those characters that one mistake, either it can kill you, cause you a lot of damage, or put the ledge, where both can happen. And it's just a matter of not making mistakes, which, to be fair, almost everything he's doing is pretty reactable. So, like, when you're more solid in the game, you can generally avoid making many big mistakes. But, you know, sometimes it's not making mistakes, sometimes you just get red ones, and it's like, well, that stinks. Overall, though, pretty lackluster character in just about every regard. Like, if you had him at, like, for example, a Zelda weight, I think he'd be contender for bottom 5 character. Next up, we have... Was Belmont next? Oh, Kirby, duh. So, Kirby. You know, another character who has similar weaknesses as before. You keep noticing slow characters always down here. Now, this character has that one, I think, unique thing of... Since the character is small and has absurd frame data, this character, combined with multi-jumps, ends up being able to find their openings, potentially, and get, like, fight people. Like, it reminds me of Dokken a bit, where, like, this character has the tools needed to win neutral. It's just the characters have the tools needed to win neutral consistently. They have to outplay their opponent generally to win that neutral. And when the Kirby gets in, his damage output and combo ability is pretty good. Like, almost all of his tilts lead to something, his grabs lead to damage. His aerials hit really hard, and he can actually just kill or do lots of damage. That's very nice. There are some matchups where comboing into his neutral B, getting the inhale is a really big deal, and it can change the matchup a lot. And also just having a command grab in the air is really nice as a rule of thumb. Up B is like an okay projectile you can use sometimes. It's situationally decent. Same as an outshield option, it's situationally decent. And yeah, it's just that he doesn't have much going for him. Like, I can't really list anything else where it's like, yeah, this is great. You know, Commando being very lightweight. You know, I guess just kind of mention how slow he is. Also, he's floaty, so he can't like jumping at people that well, where a lot of characters with good CQCs are a bit better at jumping at people. Like, you think like Mario or Fox, because they're a lot faster overall. And then finally, this character's recovery is not that good. It's not awful, multi-jumps are nice, but the up B itself is pretty poor. Kirby's airspeed means he has trouble positioning himself like well off stage, meaning characters with nice big hitboxes can basically contest him off stage and prevent him from recovering anyway. So overall, he's just a character who, ever since 64, has not been that great. You know, he was okay in Brawl, but it turns out being a slow, lightweight character with very low range who relies on good frame data and decent combos up close tends to not make for a good character. Next up, Lucas. All the Lucas players about to come in to this video and be like, Dabuz is being sued by Lucas again. So this character has a lot of good things on paper. Forward air is really good. Side B is good. Down smash 2 frames are nice. Recovery with Zair and up B is pretty good. Nair is good. Like, jab is good. Forward tilt's solid. His up tilt's okay. His down tilt's pretty good. And like, they're all pretty good options. You know, even like some of his weaker tools, like his up smash, have pretty gimmicky uses. Forward smash is alright. Down B stuff, like movement is cool. Neutral B can be interesting. And then he has like the super like TS level, like Zair jump cancel stuff, which if a Lucas player like mastered it and really applied it, I can see his character rising up a bit. So why is he bad? It sounds like he's good overall. The main thing is his kit doesn't really mesh well together. Like, he has these really good buttons like forward air and side B for zoning, right? But he doesn't have any payoff rate for zoning out with like forward air and side B. He just kind of hits you with some like nice moves. And they keep you out as opposed to giving him openings to get in. So, like, you know, he has these good moves when he's on top of someone, like his down tilt, his jab. He doesn't really... His kit doesn't really want him to get in like that. Also has good grab game with a tether grab and kill throws, which is nice. And low percent combos. It's like, even though he has, like, those things, his kit doesn't really make him want to get in. And as a result, it feels like his like neutral works against him in a way for his best things. And then, despite the fact that he's really good up close when he's on the offense, on the defense he struggles. He doesn't have any like fast aerial options. He can't combo break that well. If you get like diagonally above him or underneath him, he struggles there a lot. It's like sword characters give him trouble. His projectile game is good. Plus he has downbeat absorb projectiles and forward smash reflect them. But all the characters can just out projectile them if they don't like get their projectiles absorbed. And then he is not that fast. Actually, his airspeed is good, but the hitboxes on his aerials, especially for like being aggressive, aren't that great. And his ground speed isn't great. So he can have trouble approaching like those projectile characters, approaching sorties. Rush on characters put a lot of pressure on pretty easily. And then, as a whole, it ends up being weird where it's like, on paper, in training mode, it's amazing. And then you play him and it's like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. You play against him and it's like, ooh, this isn't... It's annoying, but it's not difficult. It can be scary because his edge guarding in particular is insane. But even then, it's not like free auto win edge guarding. And even though his recovery is good, you can still edge guard him. And it's like this character is a couple of changes, like giving him like a really fast nair, making it so like his forward has a better arc so you can really approach people with it like aggressively without getting like punished on reaction. Just a couple changes from being a really good character. He just needs something that kind of glues his kit together. Because right now it's so close to being an amazing character. Actually, it is a couple changes close to being an amazing character. But right now it's just not quite there, in my opinion. All right, Plant. Plant is, he's one of those like one-trick ponies, moveset kind of stinks overall characters. You know, you got Neutral B, great move, great move. Especially because the fact that he's a heavy character, like he can force trades with the moves a lot. He's a kind of small character too, so for being heavyweight, that's very nice to be a small hurt box. You know, and then like Poison's pretty good. Honestly, all of Special is pretty good. Up B can be a very annoying move to deal with if you miss edge guarding him. He just gets on stage free, let traps you with Neutral B. Poison obviously controls space, forces a lot of damage. Down B armor means you can't just swing at him. He can always catch you at these weird angles if you're in the air. Does a lot of damage, except shield breaks. Like, that's all pretty good. But then, the problem is, a lot of these moves are, I guess, gimmicky in that once you know how to deal with them, they're not that good of moves, or they're situationally good. But you can't build a gameplay around lots of moves that can be, like, once you know the counterplay in the matchup, can be dealt with pretty easily. You know, combine that with a kit of moves that overall isn't impressive. Like, they buffed his forward and it's still a mediocre forward air. The only normal that stands out to me is like dash attack, which is good but not even like amazing, and up smash for being absurdly powerful and fast. But like that just can't carry character. Not an ultimate where like characters ultimate are pretty good compared to other Smash games. And yeah, overall, it just kind of reminds me of Lucas where it's like he needs something that glues his kit a bit better together. Because he's almost there. But like, he just isn't quite there. And now we got Hero. Hero is one of those characters like Kirby, Doc, where I think this character actually has the tools he needs to win neutral. Just not consistently. Which is not even a joke on his RNG, but now I realize it makes sense. Yeah, obviously, you know he does, you know, zones out, spells. Like, so his game plan actually makes sense. His game plan is keep you away with big aerials, projectiles, get his buffs, and when he has buffs, suddenly he's really scary to fight, means he can zone you more or pressure you, and you don't want to deal with that. It's actually a really good game plan on paper, and he has a decent result in practice. It's just he has decent results depending on the matchup. There are some matchups where he's really good. Like, characters can't really approach that well in general. Characters that really struggle with big sword range, although his big sword range isn't as scary because of his frame data lacking, his mobility lacking. But, like, the matchups where he struggles feel really bad for him, I think. And even then, because of the nature of down B, being like RNG, the nature of when he has an MP, he's a pretty bad character, and like he needs to get MP by hitting you, which isn't always easy, considering these lackluster statistics. In general, just kind of suffering as a whole versus like, you know, better characters than almost any archetype. And you find to be a character that, you know, is very doing very good week 1 when he came out, first maybe couple weeks even. And they just fell off the face of the earth as people learn the matchup. And continues to just be one of those characters where it's like, oh, I know how to deal with your zoning. Well, you have to rely on your not great moves. And I don't know. He doesn't feel like an awful character. He just feels like a character where he's outclassed by other characters that have a zoning focused game plan where they want you to approach into like really good buttons. Characters that can put a lot more damage on, more consistently. Characters with a lot better pressure, a lot better disadvantage states, all that stuff. Now, Mewtwo. Mewtwo is the definition of a character that is one change with being a good character. Like, every move I mentioned by Mewtwo is good. Literally all of them. The worst move I could think of is like, I guess his back here? There? I don't even know. He legit only has good buttons everywhere. The only thing that's like bad about his buttons is his grab is very low range. But then he has command grab side B, like, geez, he's a cannon right there. But then he's also way too much glass. Like it was already a problem in Smash 4 to be a big, lightweight character. But it worked out in Smash 4 because his really good buttons were like way too good. Down tilt, shadow ball, fair, nair. Like he actually just could zero death you and keep out with like 3 moves and win entire matchups in those 3 moves. In this game, it's not quite as degenerate. He leaves himself a lot more open when he's using his good moves. Because he doesn't have anything that's super broken. Even at the Shadow Ball buff, it's like not super broken. And then, yeah, considering the fact that he just dies so easily, it's... If you're not winning neutral basically for free every time, and you have to work hard for it, you have to be able to like convert those wins into like basically 0 deaths. If you're a character like Mewtwo whose disadvantage is so bad due to poor attributes, a teleport recovery that can be very easily 2-frame large because of his size. And yeah, combine that with having trouble landing because he doesn't have like good hitboxes below him overall. It just ends up being like, he's scary. You're gonna have stocks who get blown up by him, but you're gonna have stocks who hit him once, and you just kill him off like almost nothing, it feels like. And this is one of those characters I could be wrong about because he was buffed more recently. You haven't got to see him offline really, but I think likely he'll end up just being one of those characters where if he outplays the opponent like a good amount, you never get hit him, and then it's gonna feel like, wow, he's really good. But it's impossible to consistently of someone like against your skill level. And he just, you're just use a smaller tail, man. Like, I don't know what the tail is doing. Just make him a bit smaller, or give him a bit more weight. Do something. He's a really, really cool character. Please, Nintendo. We just don't want his tail to be massive. We don't want him to be like bottom 20 or so weight in the game with an atrocious disadvantage overall. Or make him small even. I don't know. Because the fact that he's like the size of heavyweights means he just gets hit by everything. Speaking of heavyweights, Krule. This is such a... We know Krule. He's a simple character. He throws some things and says, hey bro, can you deal with this? No? Cool, I win. Yes? That's a problem. You know, combined with armor. Armor is pretty good. But it doesn't just like auto win him things, you know? And yeah, I don't know. When you look at this character, it's like he's a solid character overall. He's very simple, so I feel like everything you say about him has been said before. It's just a matter of, as a heavyweight character, he has all the weaknesses of combo ability, bad disadvantage. He doesn't like DDD where he can like kind of like outplay the opponent disadvantage either. His up B is really linear. His landing options are very linear. And then even his neutral is so linear that like if your character can't deal with it, you just get bodied. But most characters can deal with it pretty well. And even with massive range and powerful moves, none of them stand out as like good besides that Nair because there's super armor on it. I guess maybe dash attack, but like if you block that move, you get a big punish on him. And yeah, I mean he's still a viable character in good amount of matchups. Just I wouldn't say he's solo viable or anything. Alright, next up, Belmonts. Ah, Belmonts. I think it's one of those characters where it's like, this character's meta like stopped developing like super early because there wasn't much to say about him. He is probably top 5, if not the most like counterpick like potential characters in the game. He has some absurd matchups where he just wins. Put him versus any heavyweight character, and a good Belmont player is just gonna win. I think. Put him versus any like good like rushdown character who can edgeguard, Belmont's just gonna lose. You know, put him versus a character with bad ledge options, that Holy Water just eats him alive. Bad ledge option, good ledge options, then it's like, well, Holy Water ain't gonna be that great. And really, you could argue this character is honestly a lot better because he ends up having such lopsided matchups for and against him. But I think as the game goes on, most characters are finding ways to just open him up in neutral because his hitboxes being so thin, as mobility sinking, and his projectiles all being very slow, means he has a lot of trouble keeping out a good amount of the cast. Or even gets out camped by some characters, surprisingly. And then most characters can just edge guard him, or just ledge trap him once and set up a knockback that's too far away from to recover from. And most characters have some sort of way to not just get destroyed at the ledge. And yeah, really, unless you're like a heavyweight character, or like a very slow, tall character, you're likely looking at the Belmonts, and you're likely scared of getting blown up for mistakes. But also likely know, hey, if I hit him once, I just kill him. So it doesn't feel like that bad of a matchup. And then finally, for my lower mid tiers, Megun is one of those characters I could be wrong about. Not gonna lie. This is a character where all the Miis are weird. Because normally there's not many people playing the Miis, advanced the metas, especially like the top players. But like, I don't know, it feels like as a character, he's outclassed by other zoners. He doesn't do anything. He struggles killing, which is his main weakness. But like, it's not awful, it's just lackluster kill power. He doesn't have the great of a combo game either, so his damage output can be a little bit suffering. And that's really the main thing about him, is like, even though he has a good zoning game, his reward off of the zoning isn't that great. And once again, like all the other characters I mentioned, like, it isn't oppressive enough or degenerate enough to just win. So like, he can't compensate for the fact that he won't just do absurd damage or kill you absurdly early with anything. So you just have to kind of outplay your opponent in the zoning over and over, which is doable. It just doesn't make for a great character in Ultimate. In Ultimate, you know, I think characters that kind of like win neutral and do a lot of damage, have super cheesy stuff. They're just like really good characters. And he doesn't really have that. And then like the rest of his normals, they don't do it either. Sure, he has some cool stuff like Grenade on block and to grab is basically guaranteed because Grenade's like plus 10 on block. That's pretty ridiculous. But that's like the best thing I can say about him is like, yeah, Grenade on block and to grab. Otherwise, he'll keep you out. He has some okay normals. You don't have to be too afraid of him, I don't think. Kind of like Lucas, and he's more annoying than anything else, in my opinion. And yeah, that's my lower mid tier. All the characters that, you know, have done well in the hands of good players. You know, aren't like atrocious characters, just outclassed. If you mean one of these characters and you're like, Dabuz, my character's better than this, just know it doesn't mean the character is necessarily bad as a whole. In Ultimate, like, there's almost no really bad characters. It just means that they're still one of the weaker characters in the game. In a game where every character has some good stuff. And, you know, someone has to be down there. Alright, guys. Peace out. Hope you like this video as well as the last one.